Once upon a time, over 120 years ago, Nigeria was a country flowing with milk and honey. There was a lot of food was in abundance. There was security. Youths, elderly, young ones, they could travel from one part of the country to another, even at night, without fear of being kidnapped, of being robbed. There was security. There was food. There was no citizen that was unemployed. There were jobs. Imagine zero unemployment. In fact, Nigeria indeed was a land flowing with milk and honey. It was perfect until the colonizers came. First, it was the Arabs. They came from the north of Nigeria. And then later, it was the Europeans and the Americans that came through the south. Oh, the colonizers plundered the resources of Nigeria. They plundered it. They came with religion. They came with Islam. They came with Christianity. They gave Christianity. They took resources of the people. You would have expected that, oh, by the laws of international trade, they would pay for those resources, right? Wrong. They plundered those resources and paid 0 naira for them. They just took it. In fact, at some point, they made a law that all the resources of Nigeria belonged to the crown. The Queen of England at the time, now you could say it's the prince, right? They made that law. They plundered the resources of Nigeria. And the leaders of Nigeria at the time did not like it. So after some time, they decided they had had enough. And so they decided to come together and ask for independence. They wanted control of their resources. They wanted to use the abundant mineral and natural resources of Nigeria for the benefit of Nigerians, rather than being plundered by the colonizers. At first, the colonizers were surprised that the leaders could make such demands. But then, in a shocking twist or turn of events, they allowed it. They gave independence. They gave control of the resources of Nigeria to our leaders. But our leaders did not know that the colonizers had a trick off their sleeves. Within a very short time, somehow the colonizers' secret plan began to materialize. They were able to find traitors, citizens of Nigeria, but traitors, or people who were at least willing to betray their country to serve the needs of the colonizers. You see, at that time, the colonizers had 10 commandments. They were called the 10 commandments to oppress a country. They had it. And they needed insiders so that on the international community, it would not look like they were trying to invade another sovereign country. So they decided to use citizens of that country who were willing to betray their own country to give access to the same resources to the colonizers. And then the colonizers would then in turn give 1% or less than 1% of such plundered resources to such traitors. And the traitors were okay selling their own people into slavery, their own brothers and sisters into slavery, so far as they got 1% of the resources of their country that is being looted by the colonizers. And so, within 3 years, these traitors succeeded to assist the colonizers to eliminate these wonderful leaders of Nigeria that rose up or stood against the colonizers in the first place. So since that time, the colonizers have succeeded to gain access to the resources of Nigeria using the traitors. But then they did not stop there. They realized that if they stopped there, somehow the people will get together again, organize, and kick out those traitors, thereby causing the colonizers to lose their control. So they decided to take the whole operation up a notch to make sure that the people are never able to come together again. Not to kick out the traitors, not to kick out the colonizers or cause them to lose their control over the resources of Nigeria that they love so much. So what did they do? They made sure that the traitors they picked obeyed their 10 commandments of oppression. They made sure of it. So since that time, we have had one traitor or another dance to the tune of these colonizers to obey the 10 commandments of oppression. And this is exactly why Nigeria is the way it is right now. What are the 10 commandments of oppression that these traitors have had to obey? And why would anybody sell his fellow brothers and sisters into slavery just to get 1%, less than 1%, of the resources of his country, while the colonizers loot over 99% of their resources? Why would anybody do that? And that's because the colonizers always made sure that the traitor that they choose, that will now act as their puppet, is a person who has questionable character or somebody who they have compromise on. And so they can use that to blackmail the person. But that's on the one hand. What is to stop the people from organizing to kick out all those traitors? Because the traitors, they are not so many. The colonizers put things in place to make sure that the people never unite. They sowed seed of discord. They sowed seeds of division, seeds of mistrust, seeds of greed. They sowed those seeds. And to my surprise, those seeds have grown into very, very big trees, to the extent that their divide and rule is working perfectly right now. What are those things that they use to distract us, to distract the people, so that the people cannot come together? 7 of them. Remember, they have 10 commandments. These things are not for the feeble-minded. The light-minded person will come and say, this is conspiracy theory. It is not. This is the story of the reality of why Nigeria is the way it is, and why it appears as though it is very impossible to take it back, to fix it. It looks like that, but fixing Nigeria is actually very, very simple. If Nigerians can truly understand where the source of their problem is. Many of us are looking at the symptoms. What we see: insecurity, corruption, tribalism, entertainment, impunity. All of those, they are merely symptoms of the seed that the colonizers have sown. At the heart of the whole problem are the colonizers themselves. So how do we get out of it? We can't get out of it. How do we get out of it? It is simple. Free and fair elections. If we can guarantee free and fair elections, we can unite the people again. We can free them from the 7 weapons that has been used to distract and divide them. Yes, we can free them from those 7 weapons that have been used to distract and divide them. And then we can now get them to organize and then throw up credible candidates that will do what our leaders in the First Republic did, taking back our resources from the colonizers. We have to be smart about it. It is not something we will use brute force for, because we don't have the resources, we don't have the weapons to fight these people in a brute force war. So we need to use smart, and it starts with free and fair elections. Unfortunately, the traitors that these colonizers recruit, they don't want free and fair elections. The 1% of the resources of Nigeria that they get by allowing the colonizers to plunder 99% of the resources of Nigeria, that 1% is more than enough for them. So if 99% of Nigerians are dying, so far as they get that 1%, they do not care. And they know that the only way for them to remain in power is by rigging elections. And guess what? The colonizers help them to rig elections. You think when the European Union come to say they are doing election observer, or the Americans send their representative, or the British send their representative to do election observer, you think they are here to observe elections to make sure the elections are free and fair? Is that what you think? Think again. They are here to make sure that the election favors the candidates who most of the time now are traitors that have agreed to use the 10 commandments of the colonizers, right? To keep the people suppressed, to grant access to Nigeria's resources to the colonizers while they keep just 1%. What a shame. Such people do not listen to the voice of reason. Their consciences have been seared. So ranting and talking to them, appealing to their emotions will not work. The only language they understand is free and fair elections. That is the only way we can kick them out and bring people who will serve the interest of Nigerians, who will give Nigerians the benefit of having resources. Only free and fair elections. This is the story of Nigeria. Tell me if you understand it. If you don't, it's okay. You can listen to the whole story again. And if you have disagreements, let me know where you disagree. We can reason together and fix them. And if you just want to mock, please, waka pass. This video is not for you. 2027 is around the corner. There are solutions in the descriptions. Check them out. To guarantee free and fair elections, we need vote vision. We need you to volunteer to be polling unit marshals. We need camp guard. We need well fund. We need law patrol. And of course, we need Abundance Party of Nigeria. Which one of them are you willing to participate in? The ball is in your court right now. Let's rewrite the story of Nigeria and make it a better ending one, or one that has a happy ending.